The morning sun cast a gentle glow over the Clampett mansion, illuminating the breakfast nook where Jed Clampett sat with a warm smile on his face. "Good morning, Ellie, honey," he greeted his daughter as she walked into the room, her eyes bright with the promise of a new day. "Good morning, Jed," she replied, moving with a grace that seemed to fill the room with lightness. Granny, who had been bustling about with her usual boundless energy, paused and looked over at her kin. "I sure am glad to have you and Ellie home again," Jed said, his voice thick with genuine affection. "And we are glad to be home, Pop," Granny replied, setting down a heavy bowl of steaming grits. "Come sit down at the table, and I will fetch you a cup of coffee." "Now, Ellie, don't go spoiling him straight off," Granny cautioned, though her eyes twinkled with a hint of amusement. "We fought hard for that women's lib," she continued, leaning against the counter. "And what? Is you and Jethro gonna treat us as equals now?" Jed chuckled softly, his chair scraping against the floor as he pulled it out. "I am gonna do better than that," he promised. "You and Ellie sit down at the table, and I am gonna serve you breakfast. How about that?" Ellie looked at her father in surprise, her hand hovering over the back of a chair. "Oh, no, Pop," she murmured, feeling a sudden warmth in her chest. "Don't say no, Ellie," Jed encouraged, his expression sincere. "Let us give it a try." "But I do not want Pop waiting on me," Ellie insisted, though she found it hard to resist the kindness in her father's eyes. "Oh, I do not say have a meal, but a little turnabout is fair play, as the saying goes," Jed explained, gesturing for her to sit. "She is right," Ellie, Granny chimed in, adjusting her apron. "What is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Come on, it is kind of fun to be waiting on for a change," Jed added, a twinkle in his eye. "Of course it is, and it shows that the men folks has learnt their lesson," Granny concluded with a satisfied nod. "You bet we have," Jed agreed, just as Jethro wandered into the kitchen, looking somewhat disoriented. "Morning, Uncle Jeff," Jethro muttered, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, Jethro. What are you doing?" "I am serving breakfast to our women folks. I would like you to help me," Jed said, turning to his nephew. "Are you out of your gourd? Didn't you learn nothing from them Japanese girls?" Jethro asked, his voice rising in disbelief. "You and me as glorious sublime beings. These is just two female nothings." "Jethro, we has promised to give up all that kind of thinking," Jed said firmly, though he maintained his calm demeanor. "That is a wrap. That is a real wrap. Boy, I think you better come on outside," Granny stated, her voice dropping to a dangerous, low pitch. "I will take him to the woodshed and beat the sublimeness out of him," she added, grabbing a wooden spoon. "Granny, sit down," Jed said, trying to diffuse the tension. "Hey, if that little coolie lays one finger on my radiance, I will have her tied to a kabuki and drag right on through to Zen," Jethro blustered, his face turning a deep shade of red. "Jethro, come on outside, it would be good for your headache," Granny suggested, taking a step toward him. "Headache? I ain't got no headache," Jethro protested, backing away. "Just keep messing with Granny," Jed warned, shaking his head. Meanwhile, at the bank, Mr. Drysdale was frantically reading through a document, his face growing paler with every line. "Paragraph 6. Each girl's salary shall be linked to the cost of living index," he read aloud, his voice trembling. "I am through. I will have to close the bank," he lamented, dropping the paper onto his desk. "Paragraph 7. No girl shall receive less than the federal minimum hourly wage," he continued, his eyes widening in horror. "That does it. I am wiped out," he cried, clutching his head in his hands. Paragraph 8. "Do not bother to read any more. I am not going to sign that contract," he declared, standing up abruptly. "You signed it yesterday," Miss Hathaway reminded him, looking up from her notepad.
"I did?"
In the presence of 12 witnesses, she confirmed with a cool efficiency. "Well, I will take it to court and break it," Mr. Drysdale insisted, pacing the floor. "Well, you may certainly try, but let me read you paragraph 8, Miss Hathaway countered, picking up the document. Paragraph 8. In case of litigation, all legal costs will be paid by Mr. Drysdale," she read, her voice devoid of emotion. "Let us hear paragraph 9, Mr. Drysdale demanded, his voice barely a whisper. Paragraph 9. Mr. Drysdale will pay for repairs to Helen Thompson's automobile, Miss Hathaway recited. That is ridiculous. That is extortion. Pay your own garage bill, Mr. Drysdale shouted. But you are the one that demolished my car, Helen Thompson said, stepping into the room. I never touched it. You ordered your bodyguard, that karate expert, to demolish it, Helen accused, her voice sharp.
Me?
She is right, Chief. I remember vividly we were staging a peaceful demonstration in front of the bank, the guard chimed in. My car. He demolished it, Helen exclaimed. Okay, so he dented your car, Mr. Drysdale said dismissively. Dented it? Here is a couple of bucks, have it fixed, he added, tossing a few coins onto the desk. Chief, Helen's car was broken in two by that monster, the guard noted quietly. It was probably ready to fall apart anyway, Mr. Drysdale muttered to himself. Come in, Bonsai. Am I glad to see you, Mr. Drysdale said, his tone shifting as he saw his employee enter. These two bullies are trying to force me to honor an illegal contract. Take it away from them, he commanded. Don't get violent, Miss Hathaway warned, sensing the tension in the room. Come on, Miss Hathaway. Quickly, Mr. Drysdale urged, grabbing her arm. You will regret this, Chief, Miss Hathaway said, looking back at the group. Nice work, Bonsai. Now let us have the contract, Mr. Drysdale said, turning back to the martial artist. As soon as we settle business, Bonsai replied, his voice calm and steady. What business? Sit down and we will talk, Bonsai instructed. I do not have time to talk. I am a busy man, Mr. Drysdale snapped. Please, very important we talk, Bonsai insisted, his expression unreadable. I told you I am too busy, Mr. Drysdale replied, waving his hand dismissively. Please let us talk, Bonsai said again, his voice dropping. What can I do for you, Bonsai? Mr. Drysdale asked, leaning back in his chair. You can fly 3 new girls from Japan for my household, Bonsai said, his eyes fixed on the banker. You already have 3 girls, there is Miko and the other 2, they are wonderful, Mr. Drysdale pointed out. No longer wonderful. Spoiled by a woman's lip. Miko already left, Bonsai explained. Well, it is not my fault, Mr. Drysdale countered. I think so, you hire Bonsai to frighten your woman. Bonsai bring his woman. They learn from your woman, your fault. You pay for new woman, Bonsai said, his logic simple and direct. Now look, if anybody is going to do any paying around here, it is you, Mr. Drysdale exclaimed. Me? What for? Well, you broke my coffee table, that is number 1, you broke Helen's car, that is number 2, you broke the Clampetts' bench, that is number 3, you would like to be number 4? Bonsai asked, stepping closer. Now look, do not try to intimidate me. I am not flying 3 girls from Japan, and that is that, Mr. Drysdale stated, his voice trembling. Perhaps if there were enough of us, we could overpower Bonsai and take our contract away from him, Helen mused, looking at the others. Miss Hathaway, make arrangements to fly 3 girls from Japan right away, Mr. Drysdale commanded, his fear finally getting the better of him. All right, all you untouchables, out of the kitchen, Jethro shouted, bursting into the room. My exalted radiance is gonna have breakfast, he announced, preening himself. You gonna cook your own veal? Ellie asked, her brow furrowed. Are you kidding? I got my own personal cook and server, Jethro boasted. Hey, Miko, chop chop. Miko is here? Well, yeah, I was sitting out front. She come up and said she done left Bonsai. Could she come back here? Jethro explained. Why would she want to do that? Ellie wondered. Why else? Like they says in Japan, she rubs me, Jethro said with a smirk. Well, Jethro, you ready to behave yourself? Jed asked, entering the room. I will tell you what I am ready to do. I am ready to take Miko and run away from home. Can I have my 50 cents allowance in advance? Jethro asked, his eyes gleaming. You won't need it, boy. Miko might run from you, but not with you, Jed said, his voice gentle but firm. Are you kidding? That little Japanese cherry blossom is head over heels crazy mad for me. Like I said before, she rubs me, Jethro insisted. I got news for you. She does not even like you, Jed said, patting his nephew on the shoulder. Jeth, I am gonna have to hear that from her own ruby ribs, Jethro muttered, feeling a surge of doubt. Might be a good idea, Jed agreed. Now, Miko, do not you worry. Ellie and me had trouble with our men folks, too, but they come around. And so will Bonsai, Granny said, patting Miko's hand. I hope Granny-san is right. Bonsai is very unhappy with Miko, Miko said, her voice soft. Well, you just stay here until he changes his tune, Granny encouraged. Thank you so very much, Miko replied, a small smile appearing on her face. Is Jethro ready to behave himself? Granny asked, turning to Jed. He says he is ready to run away from home, Jed said, shaking his head. That is even better. I will go pack his bag, Granny said, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Watch it, lowly Occidental female. You is mean-mouthing the radiant light of the Orient, Jethro warned, his chest puffed out. Jethro, you watch it, too, round eyes, Granny said, ignoring his posturing. Jeth, shall we take him to the woodshed and fan his radiant breeches? Granny asked, looking at Ellie. Please, please, Miko caused too much trouble between Jethro's son and honorable family, she said, bowing her head. I am sorry, I will go, she added, turning toward the door. No, sit down, Miko. You didn't cause enough trouble, Granny said, her voice full of warmth. He is always like that, Jethro's son. You Yamaha with Jethro's son, and we with rival luxury, Miko said, looking confused. On 50 cents a week? Will you please leave me and my Japanese sweetheart alone? Jethro asked, his voice pleading. Jethro's son, I am not your Japanese sweetheart, Miko stated clearly. Are you telling me you ain't Japanese? Jethro asked, his jaw dropping. I am Japanese, but not your sweetheart. Is that plain enough, stupid Sam? Miko asked, her voice steady. Greetings, Ellie, Miss Jane said, entering the yard with Oscar trailing behind her. Howdy, Miss Jane. Say hello to Oscar, Ellie greeted, her face lighting up. Hi there, little fella, Miss Jane cooed, reaching down to pat the animal. Ellie May, we girls at the bank need Granny's help, Miss Jane explained, her expression serious. What is the trouble? Ellie asked. Bonsai has seized our contract and won't give it back to us, Miss Jane said, her voice filled with frustration. Oh, Granny will make you do it. She will whomp him again, Ellie said, a confident smile on her face. That is what I wanted to check with you. Granny did vanquish Bonsai, didn't she? Miss Jane asked. Yeah, he got her, May. There used to be another on bench just like this one right here. Well, that rascal hauled off and hit it with his bare hands and just busted it all to pieces, Ellie recalled. What a terrible thing to do, Miss Jane exclaimed. That is what Granny said, and she led him and turned him every way but loose, Ellie added, her eyes wide. Who are you talking about, Ellie? Granny asked, coming out onto the porch. Oh, Bonsai. Is that the goon mare that busted our bench? Granny asked, her brow furrowed. And you vanquished him, Granny, Ellie said, beaming. I do not know about that, but I hooped the tar out of him, Granny said, a proud glint in her eyes. Well, now he has taken our contract away from us. Would you make him give it back? Miss Jane pleaded. Of course I will. Where is he? At the bank, Miss Jane said. Let us go, Granny declared, her voice filled with determination. Hey, where are you all going? Jethro called out, stepping onto the porch. To the bank, Granny said, not breaking her stride. Can I catch a lift? Certainly, hop in, Granny agreed, opening the door of the car. Where are you going? Don't ask him, just let him go, Granny whispered to Ellie. Good luck, Ellie called out as the car pulled away. Whose car is this, Miss Dean? Granny asked, peering at the vehicle. Bonsai broke it just the way he did your bench, Miss Jane explained. Where is that jump maker? In Mr. Gysdale's office, Miss Jane said, pointing to the building. I will learn him to go around busting up people's furniture and automobiles, Granny muttered, her fists clenched. Atta girl, Granny, Miss Jane cheered as they stepped out of the car. Thanks for the lift, Miss Jane, Granny said, walking toward the bank. Jeffrey, where are you going? Granny asked, spotting Jethro walking down the street with a small bag. I am running away from home, Jethro announced, his head held high. Running away from home? Why? Granny asked, suppressing a laugh. That family of weed benders I have been living with won't let me live the kind of life I am entitled to, Jethro explained. And just what kind of life is that? One of sublime happiness, as a member of the magnificent, exalted Oriental nobility, Jethro stated with pride. And just where do you plan to find that kind of life, your exalted magnificence? Granny asked, her voice dripping with irony. I thought I would try the Young Men's Christian Association, Jethro said, looking thoughtful. I do not know how sublime that will be, Granny said, shaking her head. Well, I cannot be too choosy when my allowance is only 50 cents a week, Jethro conceded. Jethro, take my advice and go back home, Granny advised. To them rubes and hay shakers? Never, Jethro declared. Well, it is better than starving, Granny noted. I will get along. I got all the necessities of life right here, Jethro said, patting his bag. Such as? 4 ham hocks, a side of fatback, 2 pot roast, and a turkey, Jethro enumerated, looking proud. Jethro, how long do you think that will last? Granny asked, raising an eyebrow. It will take me through the rest of the day, Jethro said with confidence. Well, now it is time to say goodbye to Jed and all his kin. They would like to thank you folks for kindly dropping in. You are all invited back next week to this locality to have a help in of their hospitality. Hilderly, that is, Satisfell. Take your shoes off, y'all come back now, yeah? Jed said, his voice full of genuine hospitality as the scene faded. This has been a Filmwise presentation.